Hello, this is Daddy Horror with a horror rant slash review. I just finished watching The Last Exorcism Part 2. I was a big fan of the first movie. I am a huge fan of the lost footage, camcorder type deal. It seems like with this genre of horror, you get so many crappy movies that are shot on shitty cameras that are trying to pass themselves off as good big budget movies that they're just shit. But then the camcorder's supposed to look crappy, but at the same time it's realistic. So I'm a huge fan of this genre. I loved part one. I loved Cotton. Cotton was my favorite character out of all these lost found footage movies that are out. I loved how cool he was. It was kind of sad to me that in part two, he doesn't make an appearance. You hear a voiceover very briefly, but he doesn't. So I just finished watching it, and I mean, it's not the best movie out there, but I liked it. I gave it 4 out of 5 skulls. It touches base with what happens to Nell, and it's a little bit of a thinker. You got to know where they're getting at here. Basically, there are spoilers, so spoiler alert big time. I generally don't do that in my reviews, but I feel it needs to because, I went to Internet Movie Database.com to look up some of the theories about it, and this movie is getting bashed, and it's horseshit. I mean, they're saying it's worse than Troll Part 2, and nothing is more terrible than Troll 2. I kind of like the movie a little bit, but I guess I'm very big in the minority for liking that movie, and it's so awful. I like it. I liked it, but it's nowhere near as bad as that, and for everybody that's saying it's bad, you're entitled to your opinion, but my opinion is, fuck you. There are worse movies out there. I got it. I mean, the performance of Nell was great, and for the idiots that don't get it, she's basically becoming the vessel for the Antichrist at the very end. They don't spell it out, but that's why everything's lighting on fire as she's driving away. She chose the evil side because the good side was trying to kill her, trying to get rid of the demon and betraying her ultimately. It does veer off of the course. There are some unnecessary parts, such as her licking the other girl at the very end. But again, that's to imply that he's the devil. He's the Antichrist. He's sick and crazy, and he wants to do things that deflower people and stuff like that. The story, yeah, it's not so great, but it's nice to see. I'm a fan of sequels that say what happens to the characters afterwards, and I like that. They explain it. Now, they don't go into detail of how the footage from the first film was found. It just shows up on YouTube like most stuff, like me. And yeah, I just had to get on a rant about this because it's bullshit. There are so many worse movies out there, and people are just bashing this movie. Now, granted, it's a couple months old now from being released, and I myself didn't get through watching it till now, but I was really happy with it, and I thought if you're a fan of the first one but are okay with expecting a different kind of format than lost footage, and you're prepared for that, you should like it if you're a fan of the first one. And if you're gonna watch this film just to bash it, don't bother. Alright? If you're not a fan of the first one, you're not gonna be a fan of the second one. This is not meant to be a scary movie. It's more of just a continuation of the story from part 1. So, this is Daddy Horror with another rant.